All right, got it.
All right.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tasheka. From those juicy burger meals with those crisp fries to those delicious pastries and mouth-watering treats that we so often use to spoil ourselves for means of reward. But do we really know what we are consuming? Well, let me introduce you to one of society's pests called trans fat. This topic took appeal to me because I am a bio major as well as I am health conscious. In this speech, we will be highlighting the history, solutions, effects, and where we can find these pests called trans fat. How did this process of trans fat came about? This process of trans fat came about in 1910 when there was a significant need to find a replacement for lard and butter, which at that time was a major source in food preparation. Little did the food industry know that they were creating one of society's major problems today. Now that we've been enlightened on a little history of trans fat, we would like to know what is trans fat. Trans fat, trans fatty acid, or partially hydrogenated oil, or most commonly known as trans fat, is formed by when hydrogen is added to vegetable oil when it is in a liquid state to make it more solid. Trans fat is somewhat like saturated fat in that they are both solid at room temperature. Why did trans fatty acid become so popular? The food industry at the time thought that they had found a suitable alternative means for lard and butter, so being as such, it quickly gained popularity. Despite the fact that trans fat has negative effects upon the body, it is commonly used by companies because one, it induces the stability and texture of our food. It also induces the flavors of our food by making it tastier. As you might know, when there's a lot of fat in food, it kind of tends to taste delicious. Two, it aids in extending the shelf life of food, so it kind of acts as a means of preservation. Three, it can be heated at higher temperature, hence the foods are crispier, like those chips that we love so much from McDonald's. It is less expensive to produce and can be repeatedly used. Hence, when it comes to expense, companies rather use that because they're always looking for the cheaper means. Are all trans fat naturally, are all trans fat man-made? The answer is no. Some of trans fat in society occurs naturally. Example of trans fat that occurs naturally are in meat such as lamb and beef. It's yet to be decided whether or not these trans fat that occurs naturally has the same negative effects as the trans fat that is made by man. Now, knowing what our trans fat is good, but what point will that do if we do not know where we can find this pest to society? Trans fat can be found in a variety of foods that are cooked in partially hydrogenated oil or used in baked products. Some examples of these foods are like chocolate, donut, french fries, cookies, and of course margarines. This therefore makes fast food the powerhouse and distribution. This therefore makes fast food the powerhouse in the distribution and consumption of trans fat. Now, New York is literally known as a city that never sleeps. We are so busy that we don't often find time to eat, so grabbing a quick bite or eating out is like the norm. This factor puts us at risk more for consuming trans fat. With this continuous finding that trans fat has negative effects upon the body, some of these effects are that they cause obesity, which we know is a very prominent problem in today's society. It also causes infertility and stress stroke, liver dysfunction, according to the author, then is of the book An Invitation to Health. Now, knowing these effects of trans fat, due to the constant studies that have been carried out by the various organizations, a specific person by the name of Stephen Joseph, who was a lawyer slash lobbyist, started this lobbying group called the Tiburon Group. It got his name because he was the lawyer of the restaurant called Tiburon, which was the first restaurant to stop using trans fat before the entire lobbying process began. He successfully sued McDonald's and Kraft over the use of trans fat. This was the first step towards the solution to trans fat. The first ultimate success for trans fat came in July of 2003 when the FDA made it mandatory for companies to put trans fat on their food label. But the top solution came in December of 2006 when New York City became the first city to have trans fat banned from all restaurants' food preparation. Being that trans fat occurs naturally, it is almost impossible to completely eliminate it from our diets. So as such, we as consumers needs to be somewhat smarter and wiser when it comes to choosing our food that we eat. This on the chart here, we have the food label. The food label tells you what quantity you can find trans fat in and if it is present. If there is not if it's not present in the food label, you can also look in the ingredients listing, which also states if there is a presence of trans fat or not. When looking at the ingredients list, you should look for words like hydrogenated oil or partially hydrogenated oil as it is otherwise known as. Here are some food that consist of trans fat. Trans fat plus consumption, as stated before, can equal to obesity, heart disease, diabetes, and a lot of other health issues. Here we have some possible solutions to trans fat. This man right here is Stephen Joseph. He was the Tiburon lawyer who was the main lobbyist for the ban of trans fat. Here we have the same food. See, it looks just the same as when it is prepared with trans fat, but only thing it has alternative fat source such as monounsaturated fat, example salmon or olive oil. Here we have the food label, which tells you in what quantity, again, you find trans fat. So it is up to us as consumers to protect our lives by reading these information that is made available to us by the necessary groups. The onus is therefore on us to be smarter consumers. It's our lives, so let's take our lives in our own hand. Thank you.